My name is Carol Gomes, and I'm the CEO of Stony Brook University Hospital. Stony Brook Medicine delivers world-class compassionate care to our patients in our many different areas of expertise. We are particularly proud of our transplant center. Stony Brook's transplant program is the island's first and longest active transplant program, established in 1979. We have one of the fastest transplant rates in our region and consistently stand above the national average. Our success rates for transplantation are at or above the national average and among the best in New York State. From the point of referral to our transplant center, through each and every phase of our transplantation, our transplant team instills Stony Brook's values of integrity, compassion, accountability, respect, and excellence. Patients who come to receive their transplant care from our experienced team can rest assured that they will be treated like family. Today, we are proud to celebrate the accomplishment of our 2000th kidney transplant by bringing you real-life patient stories that highlight some of the greatest successes of Stony Brook's Transplant Center. Please join me in celebrating this momentous occasion with members of our transplant team and many of our patients whose lives have been touched by the power of transplant.
Wow, what a beautiful montage showing our history through the years. So let me go back and talk a little about the history of the program. So we started the program back in 1979 as a brand new startup. Our first kidney transplant was performed in 1981, was a living donor transplant between brother and sister. And since that time, the program has had numerous milestones that are really noteworthy. So for example, in 2005, we performed our first ABO incompatible kidney transplant. By 2008, we had performed our 1,000th transplant. By 2016, we had engaged in the first paired donor exchange kidney transplant. And by 2021, we had performed our 2000th kidney transplant. We were also highlighted in a 2017 documentary called Bean about a really wonderful story about two young women, one of whom donated to the other after they met essentially online and became the closest of friends. So we've had really an interesting timeline, not only surgically and medically, but when you read into the patients and you see these relationships and how they pan out emotionally, it's really a great thing to see. So through the years, we've been a leading provider of transplantation. We've been designated a center of excellence by numerous payers. We've also seen our volume in our program grow about 56% over the last 10 years. When you look at us in relation to programs nationally, we're in the top 20%. Also, our rate of transplantation really exceeds essentially any kidney transplantation program in the New York region, which of course we're very proud of, because this means that patients who get listed at Stony Brook, they wait less and they get their kidneys more rapidly. So as an example of a patient story, we have a woman, Linda Morales, who we first met in May of 1989, where we gave her a kidney transplant at the age of 20. To date, that kidney is still functioning. She's had it for 30 years, and the kidney still functions with essentially normal function. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Linda Morales and other patients whose story we want to share with you.
I was 19 years old, and I was going to NYU on a voice scholarship. And I was working for the Songwriters Guild in Manhattan, and I thought I had everything that I ever wanted to achieve. By 19, there I was in the city. It was either a singing career or Broadway, and I woke up one day and I just couldn't talk, I couldn't walk. Trying to get home to Long Island, I was falling down in the subway and getting back up, and I just thought I had a terrible case of the flu. And it took a couple of weeks and I still wasn't recovering, so my mom got some blood work, and the doctor called and said I had no kidney function at all, and that Stony Brook Hospital was ready for me to go on dialysis. And so in one day, literally everything was taken. When the doctors would talk to me about a kidney transplant, I probably had the oddest reaction. I was like, no one's cutting me open unless it's life or death. You're not putting someone else's body part in me. Dr. Rappaport called me from Stony Brook Hospital and said, we have a match here as close as your sister could be. I woke up May 14th, 1989, Mother's Day, with a new kidney from transplant, and they said it, as they say, kicked in on the table. I woke up from transplant, from that operation, sobbing and sobbing. And I said, God, I knew you were big. I didn't know you were this big. I didn't just get another chance. I felt like I got me back. I got Linda back. Right after I had my transplant, I was singing and preaching and telling my story all the way up the East Coast. 2-hour concerts, in churches, women's organizations. It was crazy. My care at Stony Brook was amazing. The nurses on dialysis were amazing. Transplant was amazing. It was like family. And this May, it'll be 33 years, and I've never had a rejection. I live my life every day to the fullest. It gave me, my life back, but it also gave me a greater purpose.
My dad needed a kidney transplant, and it's funny, I remember sitting actually around this table, and all my siblings were here and my parents, and they were saying how he is eventually going to need a kidney transplant. So they kind of went over everything, and it's funny because I'm sitting here and I was right over here, And I remember thinking in my head, I'm like, I'm gonna be the one. It's our dad. And we wanted him around. We wanted him to be here for us and my mom and his grandchildren, and it was just a no-brainer. As things progressed, we all got tested and we all had the same blood. We all were matches, but for one reason or another,
You
was
better
the
fit,
best
fitter
candidate for it.
Right. I didn't want it, but she says if I don't take it, she'll give it to somebody else. So I decided to take her up on it, and thank the Lord for that. She gave me extra time on my life.
As of now, my dad still goes back and forth to Stony Brook regularly to get his care and get his kidney checked. And every time he goes, he'll always come back and he's like, Dr. Darris and his team are just phenomenal, and the care that they provide for him still 14 years later is just amazing. And he'll even say that Dr. Darris, well, he's asking about you, and it's amazing how they've become sort of like a little family, and the care that he is still receiving, it's still top notch.
I would recommend that hospital to anyone. They do great work there, Thank you, Dee, for your kidney. And if you ever want it back, you can have it.
Okay. It's okay. You can keep it. You're welcome.
I went to Dr. Darris's kidney clinic in Setauket based upon a referral from my sister. I went to him in hopes that I could get a transplant instead of doing the dialysis thing.
I was supposed to be the donor to Angela. Initially, we were a match, but then as they dug deeper and they found the antibodies were not a match, then we had to start a different search.
While being on dialysis, there was a lot of restrictions, and it's grueling on your body, mentally and physically. But during all that, the highlight is becoming a grandmother at that time too. So I had a lot to live for. And then I went through my 2-year journey of staying cancer-free. And at the end of the 2 years, like Tom's mentioned previously, we thought that he was the donor for me. So I felt very, all right, let's finish out my 2 years. Let's do this, and I'll be rewarded at the end. But then when we went for follow-ups, we found out that he wasn't the match.
And that's when we were lucky enough, we sat down with Dawn, and she took us by the hand and, really led the way in this swap that took place.
It was a big change. I felt it immediately, and I was just like, this is going to be huge.
I did it for her and for us, really. But, and after it's all over, you realize you've affected 3 or 6 lives or however many lives indirectly, which is really a triple blessing.
I have the opportunity today to discuss many things about kidney transplant. One of the first is, why do we do kidney transplants? What are the benefits of transplant versus dialysis for the treatment of kidney failure? There are multiple benefits, but it really boils down to 2 things. One is quality of life. Patients live a better quality of life. They have more energy. They have more freedom. They can do more things. Their diet is much more liberal. Their ability to go back to work and travel. And then the second thing is their longevity, how long they live. And patients live longer after a transplant compared to dialysis. When even young people, when they have kidney transplants, can live close to a normal length of life compared to staying on dialysis. Nothing happens in transplantation without organ donors. And whether it's kidneys, livers, hearts, lungs, without donors, transplants don't happen. Donors, whether they're living donors or deceased donors, are the real heroes of the whole process. And families make tremendous decisions with their loved ones if they're in the intensive care unit and end-of-life decisions have to be made. Living donation is a tremendous opportunity that very selfless people come forward voluntarily on their own to try to help someone. I always look at organ donation as a noble act, and that someone gives of themselves the gift of life to help someone else with nothing in return other than the satisfaction of donating. Unfortunately, a lot of our patients have diseases that run in families and do not have family members or significant others that are able to donate a kidney. So they end up on the kidney transplant waiting list, which can be anywhere from 3 to 7 years or longer waiting for a kidney. The lists continue to get longer in New York State and nationally. There are over 100,000 people on the kidney transplant waiting list in the United States, and over 7,000 people waiting for kidney transplants in New York, and over 1,000 other people waiting for livers, hearts, and lungs. So there is a tremendous need to help these people, and it's always part of our plea as we promote kidney transplant is to promote organ donation amongst people. The organ donor registries are very important. It's a great opportunity for people to make that decision on their own rather than put the decision on their family members at a dire time where major decisions are made. I had the privilege several months ago to perform Stony Brook's 2,000th kidney transplant. This was a directed donation from a deceased donor where a family decided first to consent for organ donation and then to direct one of the kidneys to our patient. Our young man had kidney disease for many years with urologic issues as well as heart issues as a child. He was able to get this kidney transplant, which worked immediately and has functioned very well. He is back to work full time. He is back to full activities. He feels great, living a normal life with normal kidney function. And now I have the opportunity, if you would please join me in welcoming Mr. 2000 himself, Christopher Johnson.
I've been a patient with Stony Brook for pretty much my whole life through cardiology and nephrology now. Last year I was told that I would have to go on the kidney transplant list, and being that I was type O blood, it would take up to 3 to 5 years to get a transplant. When I found out I needed a kidney, I was angry. I went through it, didn't enjoy my life. It was tough, it was not easy to deal with.
This was very, very difficult for our family. I never realized how hard it was on him. And I knew what the weight he was carrying was so heavy.
Back when I found out I had to go on the list, I put out Facebook posts, Instagram posts, just getting my story out there. Didn't realize that I would have over 1,000 shares. 2 months ago, I got a phone call from a buddy saying that they had a possible kidney for me, and it kind of all just spiraled from there. And then on the Thursday before my surgery, they called me telling me it was a direct match and that the family actually did a direct donation specifically for me. I broke down. Yeah. The care I received at Stony Brook was amazing. Everybody showed me love, compassion. Everybody's extremely nice, from the people at the front desk, the nurses, the phlebotomist, Dr. Darris, all the residents. They're unbelievable.
The weight has lifted off of him. He has become someone like I knew before, you know, and he's happy. And that's all mom can ask for and a father can ask for, is that their child is happy. And he is. And he looks great and he feels wonderful. And that's what we want for him.
So let me share with you a little bit of the history of the program. I came to Stony Brook in 1979. At the time, I had just completed a kidney transplant fellowship at the Mayo Clinic. I was hired by a general surgeon named Felix Rappaport, who was brought to Stony Brook to start the program. Together, we embarked on the difficult endeavor of really starting a kidney transplant program from scratch. In those days, we had no residents, no fellows. We essentially did everything ourselves, histories and physicals, follow-up visits in a transplant clinic. We pre-oped all the patients. We wrote all the post-op orders. And so it was really a ground-up effort from the beginning. Of course, the vision was really to get it started, get it rolling, and then, of course, expand it so we would have, much larger infrastructure, much larger staff, bring in, people who are, professionals and experts that could do a lot of the work surrounding, what is involved in a kidney transplant program. I think when I look at it today, it's a true source of pride. It's evolved into a really high-quality program with the most dedicated of people that I've ever encountered in medicine. The outcomes are admirable. The feedback we get from patients and families is just, makes it all worth it, whatever the work and effort put in. And so it's been a great ride to start this from the beginning and see it where it's come 40 years later.
I'd like to thank everyone who has watched this today for joining us, and thank everybody who's participated in this. Also to thank everybody who's participated in over 2,000 kidney transplants at Stony Brook, especially Dr. Walzer, who's been here since kidney transplant number 1. And I've had the privilege to be involved in kidney transplant number 1,000 and number 2,000, and I'm hoping for number 3,000. Thank you all.
The care I received at Stony Brook was amazing. Everybody showed me love, compassion.
I want to take this time to say thank you from the bottom of my heart and kidney.
Thanks to the care of Stony Brook, I can see my grandchildren.
I feel amazing today.
The transplant experience was amazing.
One person that I have to thank.
Dawn especially held us by the hand through this process, and Steve and the whole group there.
Dr. Sue, you are unbelievable. Your care is insane, even though you text me at 3 a.m. sometimes. I always answered. I looked forward to it.
Dr. Zhao and his wife, Dr. Walzer for doing the surgery, Dr. Darris, Dr. Ramos.
I love Stony Brook for what they've done for me, and the doctors are all great, and the nurses, and all the personnel. They're all in there to help you, and they do a good job.
It was things that I didn't experience for quite some time.
Yes.
And to get it all back in one day, and bam, here's your gift, and go live on life. It was just unbelievable.
I thank you all for your incredible work.